Dear students, hope you are all doing good at home. Stay home and stay safe. I am Gayatri Khara, lecturer in Computer Science Department, Sir CRR College for Women, Elur. As part of BSc 6th semester under Cluster B, Distributed Systems is one of the subject. So, before going to the topics of distributed systems, I will give you an overview of what are the course objectives and outcomes of this course. The course objectives are: it gives you the fundamentals of distributed computing systems, assuming the availability of facilities for data transmission, to discuss multiple levels of distributed algorithms, whatever the algorithms useful for building the distributed systems, system models, all the related algorithms and security protection mechanisms in order to use the distributed system in a secure manner. All those will cover under unit 1 to unit 5. So the outcomes after this subject, the outcomes are: you can create model for distributed systems, and you can also apply the techniques which you have learned in the distributed system. The main objective and outcomes are these. Coming to the syllabus part, under Unit 1, we will know what is meant by a distributed computing system, what is the history behind distributed computing systems, what are the key characteristics of distributed systems, different types of system models, issues in designing a distributed operating systems, and examples of distributed systems will cover under Unit 1. Features of mechanism, message passing mechanism will cover under Unit 2. And the mechanism we follow is RPC, remote procedure call. All the call semantics and protocols bindings will cover under this unit. As part of Unit 3, there is an introduction about distributed shared memory, design and implementation of DSM system. DSM is distributed shared memory, granularity and consistency model, advantages of DSM, clock synchronization, and election algorithms like Bully algorithm and ring algorithm will cover under Unit 3. As part of Unit 4, task assignment approach, load balancing approach, sharing approach means whatever the systems are there in a distributed system, the load balancing approach, what is meant by it, and the process migration and threads will cover under Unit 4. Under Unit 5, the file models, file sharing mechanisms, file sharing, accessing the files model, file caching systems, file caching schemes, what are the different schemes of file caching, file replication, and security and protection related concepts will cover under cryptography, authentication, access control, and digital signatures. Overall, this unit will cover about security and protection and also about the files. The reference books for this subject are Pradeep K. Sinha, author Pradeep K. Sinha. The title is Distributed Operating Systems Concepts and Design by Pradeep K. Sinha. And you can also go to Distributed Systems Concept and Design by George. Student activity is: you can give an implementation of distributed mutual exclusion algorithm, or you can create a distributed simulation environment in order to get the idea about how to create a distributed system. We will create a simulation environment. Similar environment we will create. After knowing all the above concepts, if you do this activity, then you will get a complete grip on distributed systems. For this purpose or further regarding syllabus, you can also visit web links like web tutorials like a tutorials point under tutorials point distributed systems, and the complete guide which comes under Confluent, and you can also visit this site. Okay, overview of the outcomes, objectives, and the topics which are covered under 5 units we have discussed. Now, coming to what is a distributed computing system. Before going to this topic, what is meant by a distributed computing system, we need to know about there are basically two types of computer architectures. Computer architectures are of two types. They are tightly coupled systems and loosely coupled systems. See, tightly coupled systems are those systems in which the shared memory is shared by all the processors. Okay, in these two systems, there is a single system-wide primary memory. Means primary memory is only one and it is shared by all the processors. CPU consists of processor and are shared by all the processors. So, any communication between the processors usually takes place through the shared memory. So, whenever we write the value of x is equal to 10, the other processor may read that value as x is equal to 10. And moreover, here they are connected via interconnection hardware. So, all the processors will have only one shared memory, one primary memory, and they are interconnected by interconnection hardware. Such a system architecture is nothing but tightly coupled systems. Now, loosely coupled systems. In loosely coupled systems, we have every processor will have a local memory. In the previous one, we are not having local memory in this architecture. But here we have every processor have local memory. Every processor have local memory. And they are connected via a communication network. So the processors do not share memory. Every processor has its own memory. Okay, every processor has its own local memory. It will not share memory. If anybody write the value of x is equal to 10, it can't be read by any other processor. So this type of architecture is followed in distributed systems. So these loosely coupled systems are referred to as distributed computing systems, or simply we can call it as a distributed systems. Then what about tightly coupled systems? They are referred to as parallel processing systems. Tightly coupled systems are referred to as parallel processing systems. Okay? So distributed systems are loosely coupled systems. Next, what is the history behind distributed computing systems? Several new concepts were introduced in 1950s and 60s. The computers are very large, big in size. They even occupy a room also. A large room are occupied for one computer, and they are very much high expensive. So usually in those days computers are used only in research laboratories or in universities. So if any programmer need to write his or her own program, they have to give the input through punched cards. Some media they have to use in order to write the program. The media we use to now to carry is USB drives. We will carry on USB drives, pen drives. Like that, in those days, punched cards are one of the media in which the programmers will write the data and they will take it to the computer center, such as in colleges, universities, or in any research centers. If any computer center, one operator will be there that who operates the each and every program comes from a programmer or any user. So he will create an environment which is suitable for running his or her job. When multiple users are approaching, the operator has to frequently change the environment in order to execute their programs. It is one of the headache. So what people find, they found that batching the similar jobs is one of the concept which can help the operator in setting the environment. So uh, the if we batch all the processes which are similar processes which are similar in their jobs, we will group that one. That is nothing but batching process. So batching together of jobs with similar needs is one of the concept they use it to follow. So in such manner, it will somewhat save our time. Why? Because we need not set the environment every time. We are executing 100 or 200 or even 3 jobs in a batch manner. And the other one is automatic sequencing of jobs, which will take care of executing the jobs by setting the environment one by one. And offline processing mode, which means that most of the users do not want computation power, they want IO bound processes, means they just want input or output bound processes, input output bound process rather than computing process. So in such a manner, whenever there is a requirement of computing power, then only we will use the operations. We will use the CPU time. So offline processing is another concept, and we will follow these concepts of buffering and spooling. And also the multi-programming is another concept which have arisen from those times. Even the multi-programming also do the job one by one, but it creates an illusion to the user that all the jobs are executing at once. Finally, multi-programming has also improved the CPU utilization by organizing jobs, and the CPU is not idle. It is always executing any one of the job at a point of time. So none of the above ideas allowed multiple users to directly interact with the computer system and to share its resources simultaneously. So none of the above ideas, means what we have discussed about batching or automatic running of programs, offline programs, offline executing of programs, or offline processing and multi-programming are all not at all allowing the multiple users to directly interact with a computer system. And we cannot share the resources simultaneously in any of the above models. So, time sharing systems will do that job. Time sharing systems will have several dumb terminals attached to the main computer. Means in a time sharing system, every user will have a terminal, nothing but monitor, and they are all attached to the main computer. These terminals were placed in a room different from the main computer room. Okay, they are separated. Dumb terminals are separated from main computer room. Using these computers terminals, all the multiple users can do their jobs, can do execute their interactive jobs simultaneously and share the resources of the computer system. Here in this mode, the people are allowed to share the system resources. So in a time sharing system, each user is given an impression, an illusion that he or she has his or her own computer. Illusion. Why? Because there is only one main computer room. We are having only, a user is having only a monitor. So it creates an illusion that his or he is owning a computer, because the system switches rapidly from one user's job to the next user's job. Such in that way, all the process, multiple users can do their jobs simultaneously, and it gives an idea, an illusion that the computer is executing his own job. It executes only a part of each job at a point of time, but it creates an illusion that to everyone that his or her own job is executing. So, with the advent of time sharing systems concept, it has moved to the step towards distributed computing systems, because in time sharing systems we have two concepts like the sharing of computer resources and accessing of computers from a different place. So, in distributed computing system, the sharing of computer resources simultaneously by many users, and the accessing of computers from a different places, different regions is possible, which is the concept coming from time sharing systems like main computer room. So, with the help of technology improvements in hardware, the size of the computers is decreased. Hardware is improving, so there is an increase in the processing speed of the computers, and it also replaced by smaller and cheaper ones. Price has been reduced. Size also reduced, but there is an increase in the processing speed. So, these systems were called as mini computers. Microprocessor technologies. With the help of improvement in the hardware, we got mini computers, and we get it at a smaller and cheaper price, and the speed is also increased. And with the technology of microprocessor, there is a concept of workstations which has the power almost equal to mini computers, but they were available for only a small fraction of the price of the mini computer. So these workstations are used as terminals in the time sharing systems, allowing the main computer to be simultaneously shared by large number of users. In these time sharing systems, most of the processing of user's job could be done at user's own computer. So the main computer will be shared by all the users. Shared resources such as files, databases, software libraries were also placed on the main computer so that they can be shared by all the users. Such workstation example is Xerox, developed at Xerox PARC. It is called as Alto. The centralized time sharing systems described above is having a limitation that terminals could not be placed very far from the main computer. Means the terminals should be in a certain distance from the main computer room. So ordinary cables which are used to connect the terminals to the main computer will go to certain extent only. With the help of computer networking technology, There two key areas have arisen. These are LAN and WAN. You know that LAN, MAN and WAN are the network types. Local area network and wide area network. With the computer networking technology, these two key areas played an important role. So high-speed LAN was the Ethernet and the first WAN was the ARPANET. These two are developed in 1973 and 1969 respectively. ARPANET is nothing but Advanced Research Projects Agency Network developed by US Department of Defense in 1969. So, with the help of computer and networking technology, the it gave birth to distributed computing systems in late 1970s. So distributed computing systems, all the components are connected via internet and where there is a scope of sharing the resources and they will work for achieving a common goal. Coming to the advantages of distributed systems, all the nodes in the distributed systems are connected to each other. So, nodes can easily share data. Whenever you are in WhatsApp group of your friends created, then you can get the data which is any subject material or you can share the data with your friends. So like that, all the nodes in the distributed systems are connected to each other. So nodes can easily share data with other nodes. More nodes can easily be added to the distributed systems. When there is a distributed system, we can easily scale it as and when required. Whenever you want to add 10 more friends, you can simply add that. That is nothing but scalable. Whenever required, you can do it more or less. Failure of one node will not lead to the failure of the entire distributed systems. Other nodes can still communicate with each other. If one node is failed, then still we can communicate with the other nodes in a distributed systems. And resources like printers, scanners can be shared with multiple nodes rather being restricted by just one. If there is no distributed system, it is owned by only one. So here the resource sharing is possible. Disadvantages of distributed systems. It is difficult to provide adequate security, the required security in distributed systems as they are connected. All the nodes are connected and all the nodes need to be secured. Next, some messages and data may lose while traveling to the network. May lose. Okay. The database connected to the distributed systems is quite complicated and difficult to handle as compared to single user system. So sometimes it may also occur overloading in the network if all the nodes are trying to send data at once. At the same time, if all nodes are trying to send the data, overloading may also occur. So advantages are we can easily share data, we can scale as and when required. Failure of one node will not affect the communication system. Resources sharing is also possible. Disadvantages are adequate security, messages may lost, and it is somewhat complicated to handle in the database connected to the distributed systems. Sometimes overload may happen. Next, the topic is key characteristics of distributed systems. The first one is resource sharing. Resource sharing means information is not the only thing that can be shared in distributed computing system. Sharing of softwares such as software libraries, databases as well as hardware resources such as printers, hard disks and plotters can also be done in a very effective way among all the computers in a distributed system. So, computers in distributed systems share resources both hardware and software. Hardware resources are shared for reduction in cost. Means we need not buy those hardware which are required. Data is shared for consistency and exchange of information. Resources are managed by a software module known as resource manager. Heterogeneity means there will be a different types of platform, means computer hardware, operating system, programming languages they use, and the implementations by different developers will be there. So in a distributed system components, we have a it supports or it can go with the variety and differences in networks or any platform. Heterogeneity means varied, different. Heterogeneity means different. Homogeneous means only similar. Openness means we need to understand or we need to take concern of extensions or any improvements to a distributed systems. In order to make a distributed system open, we have to define a well-defined interface of components, and we should follow the standard interfaces of components, and we need to able to easily integrate the new components with existing components. It is nothing but openness. Concurrency. In a distributed system, we can concurrently means we can do multiple activities at the same time. With the help of concurrency, we can reduce the latency. Latency means lack in time, which is called as a delay. Delay in time is nothing but latency. We can avoid that, and it increases the throughput of the distributed system. And the next thing is scalability. We have already discussed this. Whenever we want to grow the distributed system, we can add as many number of users as we want. We can easily scale the distributed systems by adding more computers in the network. Components should need to be changed when we scale the system. So we should design, while designing a distributed system only, we should take care that we should design in a such a way that it is scalable. The next is fault tolerance. In a distributed system, hardware, software, network, anything can fail at any time. So the system must be designed in such a way that it is available all the time even after something has failed. Something means it should tolerate. Whatever loss is there, it should tolerate. Transparency. So the distributed system should be perceived by users and application programmers as a whole. More about transparency we will see in the later class. So those are the key characteristics of a distributed systems. Next, different types of system models. System models. When we are building a distributed computing system, these models are classified into 5 categories. System models are classified into 5 categories. They are mini computer model, workstation model, workstation server model, processor pool model, and the combination of workstation server model and processor pool model, that is nothing but hybrid model. We will see in detail about this mini computer model. In a mini computer model, mini computers are connected like this via a communication network. So, mini computers as well as maybe large supercomputers are interconnected by a communication network. So each mini computer usually has multiple users simultaneously logged onto it. So several interactive terminals are connected to each computer. Each user is logged onto one specific mini computer with remote access to other mini computers. Okay. The network allows a user to access remote resources that are available on some machine other than the one onto which the user is currently logged on. They can get the resources from any other mini computer. It may be used when resource sharing with remote users is desired, then this model is very much suitable in a distributed computing environment. So information sharing such as databases of different types or any database located on another mini computer, then this model is very much suitable. The early ARPANET is an example of distributed computing system based on this mini computer model. Workstation model. The other system model is workstation model. So points to remember in mini computer model is, in a mini computer model there are the mini computers connected to a communication network, and each mini computer can have many terminals which will be used by multiple users, and all the users may log in at the same time. Mini computer model can be used when there is a requirement of resource sharing with remote users is there. Next, workstation model. A distributed computing system based on workstation model consists of workstations, several workstations connected via a communication network. In the previous system model, we have connected mini computers. Instead of that, here in workstation model, we are connecting workstations via a communication network. So, a company's office or a university department may have several workstations scattered. Scattered means expanded throughout a building or campus. Each workstation equipped with its own disk and serving as a single user computer. So, here it will be taken care by the workstation and it will be acting as a single computer. It is found that in such an environment, at any one time, a significant portion of the workstations are idle. Means this one is idle, sometimes this one might be idle, this one might be idle. So what it results in? It results in the wastage of CPU time. So the idea of workstation model is to interconnect all the workstations by high speed LAN, so that any workstation is idle and this workstation is holding overload jobs, or more processors are running on this workstation that can be easily shared via high-speed LAN to this workstation. So, whenever a user logs on to one of the workstations, we call it as his or her own workstation. So, when a user logged into this workstation, for example, he is giving jobs for execution to this workstation. It is called as home workstation. So when the system finds, if the system finds that whatever job submitted by the user is more than the capacity of that workstation, or we can say that the computing power or the processing power is insufficient for executing the processes of the submitted jobs, then it transfers the process, some of the process to the idle workstation. So currently idle workstation will get the process executed there, means if it is idle, it gets the processor jobs of this workstation to this and it executes the processes here and it gives the result back to this workstation. The home workstation will receive the job. So this model is looking to be fine, but it is not so simple to implement because it has several issues which should be resolved. Why? Because how does the system can find an ideal workstation, and the second one is how is a process transferred from one workstation to get it executed on another workstation? What is the mode of transfer and what happens to a remote process if a user logs on to a workstation that was idle up until now, and when the user of that particular workstation suddenly logged in and want to execute a process, what is the so these issue, what is the mode we need to follow? These are the issues. Means how can issues are like this. First one is this: how can this workstation can find an ideal workstation? First issue. And the second issue is how to transfer the process from one workstation to another workstation. And the third issue is how can the workstation can execute the process of another workstation if this particular user logged on and he want to do the his own job, what to do in that time. So issues to be handled are these three. So first approach, the first and second we will cover under chapter 7 and 8. We are looking for this issue. Means if a remote process is if a remote process is running onto other workstation, then it was being executed to execute a process of another workstation, what to do. The first approach is to allow the remote process means other stations workstation share the resources of workstation along with its own one. If the use with his or her own logged in user process, he will execute the other workstation's job also. This is one approach. Or the second approach is to kill the remote process. Means the job of this workstation will be killed by this process. Remote process means for this workstation the remote process is this one. So the second approach is to kill the remote process. And the third approach is to migrate the remote process back to its home workstation so that execution can be continued there. The third approach is up to what extent it has covered the process. Say for example it has completed up to the 20th statement in a program, then the process should be moved to this own workstation, then so that it can run from 21st line of statement it can run. These three are the approaches we can follow, and we need to take care of these issues. So one of the examples is Sprite system and an experimental system which are developed at Xerox PAR E are the two examples of workstation model. In the next class, we will see about what are the different other three types of system models. Up to now, we have covered what is meant by distributed system, what are the two types of computer architectures, what are the key characteristics of a distributed system, and two types of system models. For any doubts, please visit my blog. Thank you.